Hi, I'm Joan Newcomb, and today's Walk and Talk is how can my cat just be my cat and also spirit? I finally got around to answering somebody's very deep question on YouTube. I had seen it a while back, but we're in the midst of moving, and I just did not have the bandwidth to sit down and give it a response. And now that I'm thinking about it, I think I missed some essence to that question as well. It was on a very old video of mine that had to do with life after death. And if you think about it, how can my cat be just my cat and also be spirit? Well, that's actually an easy answer because beings exist in physical form as well as beings. This little being is, I think I haven't got her set up right. I have to get her arms inside, but she's having such a good time. Flapping in the wind. You're flying, you're flying. So all of us, everything, including plants, everything is at its essence consciousness with a physical form. And the thing is, time is not a linear experience. I've already talked about time being lasagna. But past lives aren't necessarily in the past. Future lives aren't necessarily in the future. It just feels that way when we're right here and now, in this present moment, in present time. That is two consciousness. Everything is happening at once, simultaneously. All lifetimes are happening at once, instantaneously. Because to consciousness, there is no time or space. We just get to feel the delicious density of time and space coming into form. It's like jumping into the pool and swimming. It's a lot denser to swim in the pool, through water. It's like walking through water is dense. It slows you down, but it's a delicious feeling. And think about it also from the perspective of consciousness, which is infinite, and even infinite is a limited term for it because there isn't numbers and individuation in consciousness. All of that exists here in density. So this is density. And we tend to focus on the uncomfortable aspects of density. There's a lot of uncomfortable aspects of density. Getting born is pretty uncomfortable. Giving birth is pretty uncomfortable. But the joyousness of being in form is delightful, which is why we can get her to smile at all sorts of things. And she Gesundheit. And we tend to get a little preoccupied about the density. So when we go back to reflect on our lives, we can remember the highlights of it. We remember falling in love. We remember looking into the eyes of our newborn. We remember the joyousness of celebrations, being out in nature and things like that. We remember that. But what makes life such a long, hard slog is focusing on the density to get to those moments. Now, I'm not going to spiritually bypass you by saying only focus on the positive, because that's not exactly the point of being in form either. The point of being in form is to have the fun of experiencing it, to have the fun of creating in form. But the other thing to understand, which can be really difficult, is that consciousness is also immensely neutral. So there's no good or bad about what you are experiencing or what you're creating. You can be creating really difficult and painful things, and there's tremendous neutrality about it as well. I was reflecting on Heather Cox Richardson put out her annual Memorial Day story about this person in Maine. I think it was a friend's mother who had a brother who died in World War II when he was only 20. And it makes me cry every time I read it each Memorial Day. The thing she mentioned in there was that she was at a family gathering and got to meet all these people again, the children and offspring, but he wasn't there and his children weren't there. Now, he was only 20 when he died, so of course he never had the opportunity to have children. And so that got me crying. And then I started thinking, now wait a minute, people die all the time. People die at different ages. There's no good or bad to dying. Actually, if you see it from a spiritual perspective, it's a birth back to spirit. And people who've had near-death experiences talk about the joyousness of dying, going back into infinite love. We're the ones who are upset at missing those people. And I could also step over and think about the fact that there's parallel universes. So there is a universe where this guy did live and went on to have children. Simultaneously, along the threads that we're walking right now, where those people didn't live. I had forgotten that my mother had a miscarriage before me, where some lifetime that child wasn't miscarried. I might not have been conceived. I don't know. And so you think about people who lived for a long time, didn't live very long. My grandmother had at least 2 children before my father was born that died in infancy, and one that died afterwards. They all had a lung disease. And then her firstborn, who was 10 years older than my dad, died horrifically when he was 16. He was washing paintbrushes with gasoline and smoking a cigarette. So there's a very tragic story, and that woman suffered a lot of loss, and she was a pretty amazing badass woman at the same time. Not necessarily the kindest or gentlest grandmother, but just think of the trauma that she was living with. When I think of living life as consciousness, it's like jumping into the pool when it's my turn at swim time. And why would I get out of the pool before swim time is over? But sometimes we do, because then we circle back around and jump back in again. And the main point about this is to enjoy life at this moment. And enjoy every moment that we're able to enjoy. Savor the wonderfulness of nature. Savor the laughing little baby who's sneezing on my chest. And helps us get through the bigger picture of the time that we're living in, where there's just amazing creations going on. And how I would look at that, how I would explain that, is this planet is a game of creating and destroying. We see creating and destroying going on all the time. Nature, creating and destroying. Things fall apart, things fall down, trees fall over in the forest and rot and become life to new trees and plants. That's just an example, but as consciousness, we're also here to create, not necessarily to manifest by positive thinking, but everything that we're experiencing here is a creation of consciousness, and we have choice in the matter of how to react to the creation or how to change, alter our walking through this creation. I can step left or right into a parallel universe where there's a different outcome. You can take a look at my other videos in parallel universes. So I was reflecting on this morning because I was getting pretty bummed out by listening to these various Substack people I listen to reflecting on what's going on in the world today, and this tremendous breakdown, destruction of our democracy that's going on in a very overt and unconscious way. And I think that's why a lot of us get very angry at billionaires, because they're so disconnected from reality. They're at some bizarre stratosphere where there's no compassion or empathy. Maybe to get to that level you have to be a narcissist, I don't know. But I have had times where I've had money and I've been pretty unconscious. I've never been a billionaire or a millionaire, but when I've been comfortable, I have been less conscious than when I've been financially uncomfortable. Isn't that an interesting thing? I think it's more creative too, as consciousness. The more creative of us create, the more challenging lifetimes. So, what's going on in the world today? I was getting bummed out this morning listening to it, and I was going, look at this, look how I'm reacting to it, and now I'm kind of shrinking down. Now, I already planned to move to Spain several years ago, when my husband and I were talking about retirement, and I have a son who lives in Spain, his beautiful wife, gorgeous grandson, there's another baby on the way, and we were planning to do that this year. No consciousness about the election or anything, just the fact that we're at the age, we can get Social Security, we'll go now. And then we got a little curveball. And we've had to rewrite our plans. And I just need to go with the flow of it and realize that the greater aspect of me knows the big picture. I'm just meandering through my road trip of life, and when I get caught up in wanting to control the details, it's not going to work out. That's my small self wanting to control the details. But when things like this happen, I can expand, I can raise up to a higher level of consciousness in how to navigate things and just go with it. And many things can unfold as we're moving through time. I will tell you that I'm going to be stepping through a lot of parallel universes so that things are unfolding in everyone's favor. I'm going to do that on the way home right now, because if I get caught up in trying to change, fix, or manipulate outside myself, outside in other people's reality, I'm just playing with the furniture, the movie set, moving chairs around on the stage. The way to make really miraculous, profound change is to step back and change it from within. And that includes parallel universes. It just gives my body something to do while I'm shifting from inside. So I hope I went somewhere today with that long meandering talk, and I invite you to take a look at your own life and ways that you can shift from within. Bring your attention back into yourself. Appreciate being in the present moment. It's very expansive being in the present moment. Find the things to experience joy in life and see how your life transforms as a result. And when you do that, please leave me a comment below. I love to read your comments. And if you enjoy these videos, please share them with your family and friends and on your social media. And click the heart button, thumbs up, bell button, like, subscribe, and leave a comment, because all of those things tell the algorithm to share this far and wide and get this out to someone who really needs to hear this information. And if you want to know more, my website is joan-newcomb.com. I have a free sample of one of my consciousness techniques in the doobly-doo below, and lots of other things that I do are in the doobly-doo below as well. And I will see you next week for another Weekly Musings.